In America, sickness is a market, health is a product, and the pharmaceutical industry is the machine that turns pain into profit. We all know the commercials: smiling actors, gentle music, a list of side effects longer than the benefits. But what if I told you that these ads aren't just selling pills? They're selling beliefs. Beliefs that make billions. Beliefs that shape policy. Beliefs that can bury scientific nuance under mountains of profit. Tonight, we're going deeper than symptoms, deeper than headlines, into the system itself, a system engineered to keep you medicated, compliant, and confused. This is Money Unmasked, and this is the pharmaceutical machine. The pharmaceutical industry is one of the most profitable industries on earth, not by a little, by an order of magnitude. It out-earns oil, tech, finance, defense. In some years, drug companies have profit margins above 25%, higher than Google, higher than Apple. But here's the twist: they don't actually spend most of their money on research. They spend it on marketing, on commercials, sales reps, lobbying, sponsorships, and influence. In the United States, for every dollar pharma spends on research, it spends up to $2 convincing you and your doctor to choose their version of the cure. Why? Because the product isn't just medicine. The product is attention, fear, trust, and once they have those, the money follows. Here's something almost no one realizes. Only 2 countries in the entire world allow pharmaceutical companies to advertise prescription drugs directly to consumers: the United States and New Zealand. Everywhere else, illegal. Think about that. America, home of the highest drug prices in the developed world, is also the only place where drug ads play between car insurance commercials and fast food promos. Those ads work really well. You hear a drug name enough times, and one day you ask your doctor about it. Doctors call this patient-driven demand, a polite way of saying you're not being diagnosed, you're being marketed to. And those commercials aren't harmless. They create customers. They turn everyday emotions, stress, sadness, worry, into potential medical conditions. And the more conditions we think we have, the more prescriptions we fill. Most industries face consequences when they cause harm. Car companies, food producers, tech manufacturers. But Big Pharma? They operate under a different set of rules. Because for certain products, under certain circumstances, pharmaceutical companies cannot be sued. Not by you, not by your family, not even if you're harmed. This legal shield didn't happen by accident. It wasn't voted on by everyday people. It was engineered. In 1986, the U.S. passed the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, granting manufacturers broad legal protection. Then came the PrEP Act in 2005, a law that shields companies from lawsuits over products used during emergencies. During COVID, that shield became iron. Billions of doses, billions of dollars, zero liability. Think about that. If a product is profitable when it works, but costless when it doesn't, what incentive is left? When COVID hit, the world panicked. And in panic, money moves fast. Governments issued guaranteed purchase contracts before trials were even complete. Billions of doses were bought up front. Stock prices soared. Executives cashed out in historic waves. Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. The pandemic turned them into financial titans. In a single year, Pfizer generated over $80 billion in revenue. Moderna went from a near-unknown biotech to a corporation worth over $100 billion. Never in human history has a medical product created so much profit, so quickly. And when numbers get that big, narratives get controlled. Messaging gets simplified. Dissent gets targeted. Nuance becomes inconvenient. This wasn't about science alone. It was about stakes, financial, political, global. A moment of fear became a marketplace. As the pandemic evolved, something interesting happened. Study after study from Israel, Qatar, Cleveland Clinic, and peer-reviewed journals began showing a clear pattern. Natural immunity provided strong protection after infection. In some cases, protection that lasted longer than 2 vaccine doses. In others, protection that was comparable or even stronger for certain variants. But this message never reached the public. Instead, people heard, one solution fits all. No nuance allowed. Natural immunity doesn't count. Even as people received booster after booster, breakthrough infections still happened, sometimes weeks after getting the shot. Questions grew, but the messaging didn't change. Why? Because complexity doesn't sell. Nuance doesn't drive compliance. And compliance was worth billions. This isn't an anti-vaccine argument. It's an anti-censorship one. Because the truth is simple. People deserve the full picture. They didn't get it. Not because the science was settled, but because the incentives were. Here's a question nobody asks. Who approves drugs? Who writes medical guidelines? Who sits on review panels? You'd think these decisions come from independent experts. Sometimes they do. But often, they come from people who once worked for, or will soon work for, the same companies they regulate. This is the revolving door. Regulators move into industry. Industry moves into government. Money moves between them both. The FDA receives large portions of its budget from the companies it oversees. Medical journals rely on pharma advertising. Universities depend on pharma grants. Medical conferences are sponsored by pharma dollars. This is how corruption hides in plain sight. Not through villains in lab coats, but through incentives that infect the system. This isn't the first time profit overshadowed safety. We've seen it before. OxyContin, a drug marketed as non-addictive, it triggered one of the worst addiction epidemics in American history. Vioxx, a painkiller pulled from the market after links to heart attacks. Fen-Phen, a diet drug causing heart valve damage. Insulin, priced so high that Americans have died rationing it while executives made millions. When profit takes priority, history doesn't change, it repeats. Here's the dark truth. Pharma will never say out loud, cures aren't as profitable as customers. A cured patient stops buying. A managed patient buys for life. So the system evolves subtly, not to cure, but to stabilize. Not to eliminate disease, but to control it. Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety, depression, high cholesterol. These conditions generate billions in recurring revenue. Welcome to the subscription economy of health, a world where every illness is a market and every symptom has an upsell. The pharmaceutical machine doesn't need you dead, and it doesn't need you healthy. It needs you dependent, sick enough to need treatment, well enough to keep working, afraid enough to seek answers, confused enough to follow instructions. Because in a system where profit is the priority, your sickness isn't a tragedy. It's a business model. The next frontier. Personalized medicine that adjusts based on your biometrics, controlled through digital IDs, and integrated with national health databases. A future where your access, prescriptions, and treatments are all algorithmically approved. If you think pharmaceutical influence is powerful today, wait until your medical record becomes your economic identity. It's not science fiction. It's already being built. This isn't an attack on science, or doctors, or medicine. It's an investigation into the incentives that shape the world behind the curtain. A world where truth becomes optional, messaging becomes manipulation, and suffering becomes a revenue stream. This is the pharmaceutical machine. A machine built not on healing, but on profit.